And we are here on a lovely Thursday, guys. Welcome to the channel. We're going to come into you live as we watch along this U20s taking on the U.S. Virgin Islands in the first match of the U20 CONCACAF men's qualifiers. Now, we're going to definitely going to be talking about this game as it goes through. This will begin its first matchup, and we'll get some graphics for you on the screen to go through. At the time, it is no, we are coming to you late because we had plans, then other news dropped, and we're just like, you know what? We're just going to incorporate everything into the stream. So if you need to Wilson, wow. And we're 5 minutes in and Canada's up 2-0 already. These graphics up. We'll be talking about this, but we'll also be talking about what else is going on as we see Canada with the ball in the midfield. They gave him space and he let it go about 30 yards and it goes in 2-0, 6 minutes in. This game's going to feel like it's going to keep running through. But once we get to halftime, we're going to break off and talk about what CONCACAF just announced today about what the format of their Zane Bruno with the second goal today. But we're going to talk about what the format of their U17s will be, how it involves the U15s and the U16s, and whether you like it or not. But for now, guys, thank you for being here as we're watching Canada up 2 goals. 6 minutes in, it's going to be one of those games where it keeps going and flowing. But as you have Canada building up on the left-hand side, we'll go through some of the particulars here to see how they look as the U.S. Virgin Islands turns it over, but then it is taken back, and we're going to have some build-up coming back here from the goalkeeper. But 2-0, it's going to be one of those games. So we're going to have a conversation. Any conversation topic you want to talk about, bring it up as you're watching. If you want to talk about all things U20s, we will certainly have a conversation about them. If you want to talk about friendlies coming up, we had initially planned to talk about that, but with games coming, we figured we would just keep it as here. If you want to talk about youth tournaments, bring it into the comments as well. But right now, it is Canada up 2-0 on the U.S. Virgin Islands. And nearly put away, and we have a corner at 8 minutes. And guys, we're going to flow through this. It is 2-0, as you can see there on the screen. So we got the score there for you guys here. U20s here. Corner coming up here for Canada. And with these qualification tournaments, you want to leave yourself in the best positions right now. Martinique certainly have shown well in their group. We have a looping header coming in. Tries to play it in, but not able to work it. Ball kept in. These Virgin Islands now starting to build up, trying to get the ball out on the wing into some space. But ball played back to the keeper, and Canada seems to be in control. As you can see there, 2-0. Two nil is the score. Huh. Now there's a nice ball breaking some lines. Here we go. Graham Roche up the post and misguided header there. Goal kick going for the U.S. Virgin Islands. But let's go over all the particulars here as the game is kind of flowing through. You have the group winners. The 6 group winners are going to meet the other group winners who are sitting and waiting for their competition later this year. The U20s, the men's U under 20 serves also as the Olympic qualifiers. And so not only do the top 4 teams make the top 4 teams make the U20 World Cup, but more importantly, ball chipped around, Graham Roche tripped, Jimo posted, oh, ball still in the window. Liam McKenzie looking to put out, but it's there. But not only is that, but the top, the Bishkov scores, and it's 3-4. It's 3-0, 10 minutes in. But as we were saying, not only does the U20s qualify you for the World Cup, but the highest ranked team, not the United States, as you remember, the 2028 Olympics are hosted by the US. So they are in. They stay in as the first team going through, but then the second CONCACAF team is the highest ranked non US team, meaning if the US makes the finals, the second place team makes it. If the US doesn't make the finals, the winner of the final makes the Olympics in the championship round. So as we sit here, as it's 3-0 for Canada, we're just gonna run through this, enjoy our time here. We've gone through this 1 or 2 or 6 times. So as we sit here and we go through, I know we got some folks here. And we thank you for jumping. Nothing less than 14 or 15. Look, I don't disagree. I think if you're looking at youth teams, they've learned their mistake from not getting the goal difference in the U17s, and they certainly are going to be putting up the numbers. Sholojima on the side. Nice save by the U.S. Virgin Islands. But yeah, they're going to be running it through. But as we see there, 20. Sholojimo crosses it in, gets stuck in the feet, but not through. Throw in for Canada. But let's talk about what's happening everywhere else. Because I think this is actually very good and fascinating to see. 11 minutes? Listen. So what if it's 11 minutes, Chris Corneve? We're here for the show. I haven't updated the 3 yet. But as we'll jump back to this, I'll keep you guys updated. I'll let you know when a goal is scored. But here's where all the groups stand so far. Right, in Group A, you have Suriname and El Salvador sitting with 6 points each. Suriname, with the goal difference, are sitting on top because they have a +7 goal difference versus a +6 for El Salvador. It's group winners going through reminder. McKenzie just misses a goal opportunity. There's the results. Suriname is certainly showing that they want to be part of that next echelon. Their next games show up tomorrow. Saint Martin going. The big matchup is March the 3rd going on. El Salvador versus Suriname. Group B, you have Jamaica and Puerto Rico topping their groups currently. Two 2-0 teams, two 1-0 teams and two 0-2 teams. 1-1, should have said. Big matchups coming up again. Puerto Rico, El Salvador seems that's going to be for the group. Group C. Group C, you have Antigua and Barbuda, who have played most of their games, but we do have Dominican Republic, who just finished. So they're going to be moving up as well with their with their first win, because they've only played one game. That is correct. In Group D, you have St. Vincent, the Grenadines on top of the group, but right now Haiti are putting on a show in their matchup, which is Anguilla. So that's going to certainly change some of the results that are coming through. Group E, Trinidad Tobago leading. Costa Rica opened up with a 12-goal score. You see that last match was probably Costa Rica Trinidad for the right to go through. Group F, the group that we're here, Canada playing the U.S. Virgin Islands, who lost 6-0 to Martinique. And so far it is 3-0, 15 minutes in. So I think Canada certainly want to improve and show the goal difference and push through there. So that's where all the groups stand. I think this is where we go from there. So back to where everyone is. So reminder again, the group winners move on. Sebastian, good sir, how are you doing? I hope the family is well. I hope you are doing well as well. Yeah, just catching up on this. So we're going to talk a little bit about the new format for the U17s. It was just announced today. I was a little bit surprised that we're going to go to it as we wait for the next goal to come through. Right now it's 3-0 for Canada, 16 minutes into the first half. But we're watching this game along, but let's get to the important thing, which is CONCACAF today announced a new format, right, for U15s, U17s, U20s, but more importantly, U16s. And the U16s start next year, that competition. And it gets very interesting. It makes, in a way, they fixed one problem, but then they've created a little bit of a scheduling and planning problem as well. But it just feels like they're trying to fill up the entire calendar. Because as you can see in 2026 here, the men's U17s already happened. We have the men's U20s that are happening here. Then the U17s for women happen in March. And then in April, no, sorry, in July, the men's championship for the U20s happened, and then the World Cups happen later on. Now, the key thing is going to happen when they introduce the U16s, which is effectively the qualification round for the U17s. But I think they've kind of ruined some of they overcomplicated things, and we'll talk about what that means here as we pull up the article as we watch Canada. Joel puts a cross in and tipped away, and goal kick for the U.S. Virgin Islands. But let's get to the details here, because I think this is where I'm very much curious what you guys think. And we're going to read through this. Again, Canada game is going on, but we're going to talk about this because I think this affects a lot of what we're talking about. As you can see here on the screen, the U16s, U17s, and U20s are going to be the new focus starting in 2027 for qualification, especially for the U17s is the major thing. But let's go to the important things here. So, as it states here, right, the CONCACAF has announced a revamped youth national team competition calendar taking place from 2026 to 29. This announcement follows the exciting release of the men's senior team calendar and the women's expanded ecosystem. And another miss. The Confederation will continue to organize youth tournaments for men and women across the three age groups, creating valuable opportunities for young players to gain international experience, while serving as the region's qualification pathway to the respective FIFA Youth World Cups. As part of the revamped calendar, CONCACAF will replace its biannual U15 competitions with an annual U16 tournament, which will serve as a qualification pathway for the newly redesigned CONCACAF U17 qualifiers. So again, that's the first big thing. We're going from biannual U15s to yearly U16s. And we'll explain the significance of that as we get here. So CONCACAF is committed to providing the youngest talent in our region with the best possible opportunities to reach their full potential through the official meaningful matches, according to CONCACAF President Victor Montagliani. We'll see about that. By expanding access to high quality competitions and creating more structured pathways for player development, we are strengthening the foundation of the game across all member associations. Are you, though? We are confident that this evolution, together with the FIFA's new 15 festival, open to all FIFA members, and its U17 and 20s will ensure that our region continues. So the U15 festival is something that we'll have to talk about a little bit later as we look that up at a later date and talk about it. But we'll talk about the U17s and the U16s specifically. So let's move down this read and talk about what this means. But you have to understand why the U15 is there. So let's pop up the U15 festival, which will just pull this up here from the Sportaran, which is an Armenian sports newspaper. They have a write up on it from December 2025. So the first U15 will take place in 2026. Will feature U boys national teams. In 2022, it'll shift to the girls. Cool. Shortening. It'll have shortening of playing time, reduced pitch dimensions, and teams of 7 to 9 players. It's the focus on youth development. In recent years, FIFA has significantly strengthened its work in youth football. The other results are clear. We are heavily investing in the youth, also emphasizing that these tournaments are a core part of their mission to provide equal opportunities for talented players worldwide, regardless of the country. The new format will opens additional opportunities to national associations, particularly those from developing nations. Participating in international 50 U15 festivals will give players invaluable experience that allows coaches and new training methodologies to an early day. They're supposed to launch in 2026. I know this goes into Armenia and such, but that's something that wasn't factored in, but will be something we'll have to take a look at when it gets to closer. But let's get back to, as you see, Canada on the build-up again. Liam McKenzie moving through, put off to Sholojimo, but just too far. Goal kick for Canada, 21 minutes in. We start off as if we're going to score 30 in the first half, but we're at 3 still. We're feeling all right. So let us get to the important things. So beginning in 2027, the CONCACAF will transition from its biannual U15s, yes, we talked about that, to an annual U16, serving with 2026 serving as a transition year. The men's and the women's competition will, in principle, take place in August and September, and feature CONCACAF member associations ranked 9 to 41, divided into A groups of up to 5 teams. Following round robin play, the winner of each group, 8 total teams, will advance to the CONCACAF U17 qualifiers, where they will meet the member associations ranked 1 through 8. So again, what this means, top 8 teams based off of rankings get buys. And then it's following the same format that I would say the women's U17 follows, but just with a few more players, a few more teams. So teams ranked 9 to 41 based off the CONCACAF rankings, based off of there. So this year, remember, the U17s were ranked 1 through 8. They were the group winners. They moved on. Now those teams get the bye, and then the next teams play in the round robin. Group winners, like you said, move on, and they join teams ranked 1 through 8. So this effectively keeps safe the top ranked teams, the USA's, the Mexico's, the Costa Ricas. At the youth level, I think Puerto Rico, Panama, Jamaica, Canada, those sides. That's just a rough draft run through teams, but that's what this means. So starting next year, August, September, qualification for the U17s happens August, September. So probably August 1 month for the women, September 1 month for the men. and that runs through. And then in 2027, this is where they launch, and this is where I think they both made it simple and then a little bit overly complicated. So in 2027, both competitions will have a top 16 championship level. Now, I think that is worthwhile, and that's 4-0 for Canada. No, we'll get to the comments here, but let me just read through everything here. So both sides will have a 16 team based qualifiers, so a championship round will each have 16. On the men's side, because of the size of the U17 FIFA World Cup, the top two teams of each groups, because there'll be 16 into four groups of four, they will move on into the men's World Cup. On the women's side, the group winners will move on to the World Cup. So 16 teams split into four groups from each side for round robin play. As it says here, on the men's side, the group winners and the runners up, eight total, will qualify for the FIFA U17 World Cup. On the women's side, the four winners will earn their group stage from there. So next year specifically, they're taking the top 16 teams based off of ranking. So on the men's side, that effectively means the group winners based and the runners up are all going to be in the qualification round for next year. On the women's side, it means they're taking the top 12 teams. So the final 12 are definitely going in, and then they're going to look at the next best four teams based off ranking, based off the qualification round. Having said all that, how do we feel about this? We just read through a lot of information. It both works and it's complicated in many ways. So let's go through. I see Chris Cornelius here. Good to see you, especially a place where we're playing in high school. Cool, cool. Yes, agree. Let's see how the calendar plays out. I do agree with that. The calendar will certainly play a role in how this looks. Haiti's leading 3-0 in 64 minutes. Okay, well, I thought they would have run away with it, but still looking good. Right. This will definitely affect high school football competitions begin September in Jamaica. This could be interesting. That's schoolboy football is that's what you mean, Chris Cornelius, correct? But that and I'll wait for you to just let me know if that's what yeah, I think that's what you meant there. But that's where it gets very interesting. So CONCACAF right now, starting next year, the top 16 teams. So again, based off of where everyone finishes, that's where they find themselves. So if they did this format, say this year, to give you if they use this year's scoring next year, and I know this is the U20s, so let's get out of the U20s and go to the U17s. So let's throw that back up there. Again, 4-0 is the score. US Virgin Islands trailing Canada. But to give you an idea what that would look like, just pulling it in, if this were to happen based off of last year's rankings, this is where we would find ourselves. The top 16 teams, say for the men, would be Mexico, US, Canada, Panama, Honduras, Costa Rica, Haiti, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Bermuda, Dom Rep, Guatemala, Trinidad, Tobago, and Curacao. That is the on the men's side. And then based off of the women's side, which is where this actually gets very interesting. Because let's see, let's take a look at the qualifiers. Right, with the four teams already there, they would look very much very different. Aish. So then these are what the pots are for the U17s for on the women's side. So your pot ones and pots twos, you would have on top of your top four Canada, US, Puerto Rico, and I'm forgetting who the fourth team was. But then you have a cutoff somewhere between 410, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, around Cuba to Guatemala. So that's what it would look like. And I'm thank you for that. I do appreciate that clarification. But that is very, it's a choice. It both makes it easier and then makes it difficult because by expanding it, you're trying to open it up, but then now you're again, it's a different overall line. I think the simple of solution would have been if you want to get to that level of just expand the final round to 16 teams, right? But now you're doing it this early, and you U16s I think makes sense because if you're using the U16s, you're effectively saying those are the U17s next year, anyways. But you're doing it so early that now it does help because now you give the teams more time post the championship round to prepare for the World Cup. But you effectively have a team getting ready for two World Cups every year as Canada scores a fifth off this set piece. Let's see how it looks. Sholojimo on the corner. It's just and another towering header. Graham Roche with his second goal. They're just it looks like a power play. They are just standing in front, but it's gonna get bad. That is it. Shola hasn't scored yet, but he is certainly giving out the assists. He's gifting assists. But no, Chris, you are correct. I think the new format certainly does change a lot and make a lot of things interesting. But I think you now make federations try to qualify. Basically, they're prepping two teams at the same time, and that might ask a lot for some. Because after the U, again, to show you against 5-0, yes, c'est la vie. Right? To show you, give you that perspective here. Once you get to next year, qualification happens in February, March, and then August, September immediately. February, March, April, you have the rest of the year, yes. But then immediately you're running right into that time space. And it does space it out. I do kind of like the marathon nature of it at the beginning of the year. I won't lie. I do miss that level of it. Like a year like here, as you can see what the normal schedule is. U17 men's, U17 women's, right? U20s, U17 women's, and then U17 qualification. It's just back to back to back action. I don't hate it, but that's because I'm a sicko and I like all forms of football and I'll watch it. But now the schedule opens up a bit after U17 qualifiers because then you have the men's and the women's. So Prince Jimo just scored. Okay, so good for him. He got his goal 6 for Canada. We chilling. But looking at how this breaks down now, there's a little bit more room now for it to breathe between the women's U20 qualifiers, which happen every other year, and then the men's U20 qualifiers happening. 6-0 for Canada for those of you who are wondering what the score is. We're talking about the new CONCACAF format. And let's talk about the U20s as we didn't finish reading through. This is all on CONCACAF's website, by the way. U20s will continue to be every 2 years for both men and the women. On the men's side, the next edition is this year, 26. and 2028 on the women's side. The next edition will be next year in February and April of 2027 and 2029 to serve as the regional qualifiers for both World Cups. And again, the U20s count as the Olympic qualifiers. And so how that works is the top four teams, so semifinalists for the men's U20s, they are going to the men's U20 World Cup. And the highest seeded team, not the United States, goes to the Olympics. And I say it that way. And I say it that way because if the US wins, the second place team goes through. If the US doesn't make the World Cup, then you have the next team. Then the winner of the tournament goes. So it breaks it down. But I see some comments here. Let's see this next. Let's see this next corner and another foul 6-0 for Canada. Let's get to this comment. Right. How does CPL Young Stars look? Star would be proud. Yeah, Star would be. That man would be. But hey, run up the goals, get to the next round, then we'll see what they do. Right? September is to start the academic year for the kids, so not sure how they'll handle it. It is certainly an ask, right? And I think that's the point with the new format that it is. And again, I'll just keep on repeating it for the one or the five who are here. It's only the strong will survive and thrive. But I think it puts more pressure on your federation to actually be able to juggle multiple things. Now, imagine this. And now this is again because primarily FIFA went to a expanded field on both the U17s and on the men's and the women's. And so running it that often, now every other year you're asking them to not only juggle U17s every year, but you have to now juggle a U16. And then you also have to every other year have a U20 prep and running for that. I'm not saying that's impossible, but it is asking. It is asking federations to be able to juggle all those many things. And maybe that means, hey, it's time to update that Rolodex for recruitment because all this is really done again. If you want the simplest explanation, they've just expanded. They just started the qualification earlier, right? And so when has got a nice chip and floated over the net corner for Canada, right? And I'll go back to the graphic because I think the graphic is the best way to illustrate it, right? So with the new format, you have the U17s at the beginning of the year. You have either the men's, next year it's the women's, this year it's the men's U20s as we're watching now. But next year it's the men's U20 qualifiers happening at the beginning and then in April, so February to April. And then August, September, that's when qualification for next year's U17s happens, which is with your U16s. Right? So it's effectively the same thing if they're just doing a qualification round a half a year earlier versus like how we would do it here where we do it now, then 3 months later or 4 months later, we run it. It's just asking now a federation to say, okay, we have the U17s ready, and then we immediately have to have the U16s ready to qualify, especially the bottom rank. And again, it's the teams ranked 9 to 41. The top 8 teams always get buys going into the finals. So, based off what the U17 rankings will be on the men's side, more than likely you're going to have other sides go through. So, probably I think probably your 8 group winners are going through and have the buy and don't have to qualify next for next year's tournament. But the year afterwards, now it starts the finishing first basically allows you a year to breathe versus not having that year to breathe, which isn't terrible. I mean, it does incentivize qualifying. And I think that's something for me that I would rather have. I if you I would rather you for these types of competitions, and I'm one thing, I'd rather you reward winning in this type of situation. So now they don't have to qualify. If effectively you finish top eight and that gives you a bye for next year's tournament, I'm all for that. Because I think if you're going to reward the teams that win and give them more time, but that emphasizes that incentivizes teams. Now look at the U17s there, right? But we'll go from there. I see you, Prince. So let me get this question up there. Africans in chorus. Would you guys prefer the loser of the CFU and Central American Confederation control the region? Has in the region CONCACAF has to lift the standard of football in the region. I do agree they do have to. I think there was a simpler way to go about it, but there are things I like about this, no doubt, and then there's also things that I wonder and say, can it work? But yes, chorus. The top eight teams will qualify. I think based off how it is, it'll be the group winners, especially on the men's side, right? Depending on how high they jump or how high they will fall. Next year, it's the top 16 because we're not going to do the qualifiers. So effectively, the top 14 from the U16 for U17, sorry, should be moving on. So meaning I'm on the women's side here. So let me get back to the men's U17s here. So again, if we're gonna make it, I think based off of that, the top, yeah, some teams could and some teams wouldn't, but based off what it could look like, depending on how high teams could jump here. So this is what the U17s for the men look like and what it possibly good. Now, for note, we don't get the CONCACAF rankings not until April. So we won't know for sure until a little bit later on for the youth side. So more than likely the U20s will affect this as well. But if it was just the top 16 teams for group winners, you'd have Mexico, Barbados, which would be wild, but Trinidad would probably pass them. You have Panama, Nicaragua. That makes sense. Haiti, Guatemala makes sense. Puerto Rico, Costa Rica makes sense. United States, Dom Rep makes sense. Cuba, El Salvador makes sense. Jamaica, Canada makes sense. Honduras, Guyana, that would make sense. So next year is probably the top 16. I would take the top 16, right? So the first place and second place teams of the U17. What they'll more likely do is look at the CONCACAF rankings for the men's and then use that to rank everything. And based off what the CONCACAF rankings would be, your top 16 would be everyone from Mexico all the way down to Curacao, right? Which would then have Trinidad making it, Guatemala, Domrep, Bermuda, and the likes making it, right? So that, and Babishkov scores again, seven. Forget if you guys are agree or forget it, that's where it would be. But on the yearly basis, yes, the top eight teams make it, ranked teams make it. And then from there, 9 to 41 have to do what the U17s did. But the eight group winners would then go to the qualifier. And then four groups of four. And first place and second place are off to the World Cup on the men's side. On the women's side, same thing, but just the group winners move on, which means you don't have the added push of the best second place team, which does add a little bit of drama, does add a little bit of pizzazz to it, but that's where it sits. So that I hope I explained it well enough, but that is what the key thing is. It's 7-0 for Canada into going into the 44th minute. Goals, goals, goals. Goals in every 10-minute marker. There's a goal that's happened. And Canada building again, but that is where it builds up. But I'm willing to over hit and going through. I think it's helpful for teams to an extent to give them, throw that in there. I think it's helpful for those teams to an extent to get an early feeling of playing in competitive ages at 14, 15. The U15 and the U16s. Right. And again, the other thing is with the U15s, they're launching U15 festivals. And to be honest, I didn't research that much. So I don't have as much information as I should have on the U15 festivals. But trying to find it, let's see if you've had anything else. But the U15 festivals is basically U15s go to another type of a thing. And we're trying to find, I didn't research that as much. I was looking more so at the CONCACAF rework because I think that does then open what you can do with a U15 ranking and U15 tournaments and competitions. But here we go. But let's see if I can find something here. Pioneering U15 for all confederations to commence there. Cool. All right. Nothing. All right, all right, all right. 2 minutes of additional time. Let's see what we can find. Let's see what we can find as we wait to go. Corner coming in. Ian McKenzie scoring 8-0. Let's see what we can find here as we go. But yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a fair point again from my perspective. I'm just one looking at it as like, okay, can we just rework our entire work from that? But there's a lot of different perspectives here, which I think are fair to look at, right? CFU, Club Shield. Yeah, fair. I don't I don't think so. I don't think so. I think Martinique scoring 7 on them just got them to think we got to do better. So I think, unfortunately, they are the sacrificial belt to the bottom. But we're waiting to get some more information on what the U15 festivals are. But the U15 festivals are every other year. So boys is 2026 and then girls is 2027. It's a smaller field. It's gonna look a lot more like what's the right? I'm I'm forgetting what that other tournament was called, but the one that was out. They're coming to qualify. I don't know if they're coming for everything and a ninth because why not? So again, yeah, we have much to discuss. I figured I'd just talk about things. This it's yeah, the U15 festivals threw me off a bit, and again, I do apologize. I didn't have it as well researched as I should have, but Canada, guys, we're chilling. We're chilling. But yeah, I think the bigger news, as we said, so 9-0 for Canada, goals by everyone. At this point, yeah, I think that's what they're going for here. I think they're going for more like the soccer tournament style, but for at a youth range. Right, for those who aren't familiar with the soccer tournament style, 7-on-7 championship that they've been doing in the States here. They get teams bring seven aside. We saw the WSL and women leagues try to do like that style of a competition as well. We've seen retired teams. We've seen other sides come in. It's $1 million prize, but that type of a pitch is good for, say, building, more technique building. Think of it as more outdoor futsal, right? But I think that's what they're going for when it comes to the U15 festival. But Canada up 9-0, like we said earlier. Goals by everyone because everyone is there. But for those of you who aren't aware, we went through it during the first half, but we'll go through it again. CONCACAF is changing its youth tournament formats. What does it mean? We'll throw this up for you one more time and kind of let you see what it looks like. This is 2026. We're right now in the men's U20s, as you can look at the old the old mouse. So we're in the qualifiers here. Right after that, we have the women's U17s championship round. Then after that, come July, right after the men's World Cup in North America, we'll have the championship round for the U20s, and then the U20 World Cup for the women happens this year. They qualified last year. The U17 for the men, U17 for the women, and then we have a U15 festival location trying to figure out. Once we get to the 2027, this is where things change and we start opting into the U16s. So for next year's U17 qualifiers, the top 16 teams based off CONCACAF ranking are put in immediately. That's simply it, right? That's how it's going to work. And then for the women, we do the same thing, qualification round and then final round for the U20 women. Then in August, September, the U16s, so the U the U16s this year, who will be the new 17s in 2028. So the 2027 U16s, who will be the 2028 U17s, it's a mouthful, will play in their qualification round. Both sides will be teams ranked 9 to 41, group winners, groups of 5, 4 to 5, maybe 6. Group winners move on to the championship round, which happens at the beginning of the year in 2028. And the U16s mid-year will now serve as the qualification round for the preceding year's U17 championship. But the top 8 teams will always be given the bye. So this year coming up, the top 16 teams will be moving on automatically on the men's and the women's side. But starting next year in the fall, then you have group winners qualify, and then the top 8 teams are there. That has happened. That has changed. I am open for thoughts. You let me know what you thought. But that is the big CONCACAF news for today. That is what is happening for that. But I'm very much curious to see what you guys think about it as we're watching the Canadian men who put up 9 in the first half. But the question for you is, do you like this format? Do you think it helps the region well? Do you think it puts too much pressure on federations to have teams? You let me. Is this good? Is it bad? Let me know in the comments. As we are at halftime, and Canada has 9 in the U20s. Let me know. Let me know. Well, let's just run over the sofa score and take a look at what's happening here, because it is running. It is running. Canada in firm control of this game, 9-0. I think many who've looked at just the team, the quality, expected it. The qualification round, 9 goals in the first half, a goal at every 10-minute mark, effectively, it felt like. But I think what makes this group, but yeah, let's get some updates on games happening. Haiti eventually finished off. It's coming up today. You have Curacao versus St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and then Nicaragua versus Martinique. And I do think that in Canada's group, the matchups actually make it very interesting in the sense that they're set up to face Nicaragua in the cap. And it's going to be so much of the U17s where Trinidad was set up to face Mexico in the finals. But I think the actual game of the group might be the second game for Canada, which is when they play Martinique Saturday night. I think that's going to be a big game. I think that sets the group for the. I think that is the team that could push back on Canada a little bit more, and then we'll see how that game goes. But it looks very interesting within that aspect. But let's talk about everything here. Yes, Haiti ends it on 7. That they do. I'm on a different browser. I'm just realizing, so I can't throw up all the different things. But let's actually go to what we do know. Let's go over where the groups stand as we sit here. So let's talk about where the groups are as we sit here. Qualification round. So again, so for the U20s, my apologies. What we have here, we have the teams that already gone through: United States, Mexico, Honduras, Panama, Cuba, Guatemala. Those are your top 6. But as of this point, you have Suriname topping their group with El Salvador. They're up by +1 goal differential over El Salvador. In Group B, Jamaica, Puerto Rico up by +5. Jamaica is up on their group. Group C, you have Antigua and Barbuda, 2 games up, but Dominican Republic are coming. Group D, St. Vincent and the Grenadines going well, but then you just had Haiti beat Anguilla by 7, so they're jumping up before the next matchups come up for them. Trinidad Tobago leading the group with 2 games played, but Costa Rica just got off and got 12 on Saint Martin, so they're looking nice to start the challenge TNT as well as Bermuda. We talked about Martinique looking all right, but then Canada so far would be up with the goal difference before Martinique starts playing their game. And I think that game will be interesting. This matchup number two or match day three for this group, that'll be fascinating. Canada versus Martinique. That's Saturday evening. I think that game decides the group winner, and that's where we're at. That is where we are at within the results of which are here. So 9-0 for Canada, but then we're also talking about CONCACAF's new CONCACAF's new qualification schedule. Do you guys like it? Do you not? Let me know. I know we've got some comments on it, but that is where we are at as we update the scroll. Here we go, because Canada up 9-0 on the U.S. Virgin Islands. Not much for stats to talk about, but the simply way to put it is Canada were dominant. Canada were simply dominant in that first half. And so what you expect from that side. I think they did a good job just to push immediately goals in the first minute, 6th minute, 11th, 25th, 31st, 33rd, 42nd, 45th, and then 45th in that time. So, hey, you want your team to ultimately take care of business, get the goal difference. I think that will always be the key thing in these types of competitions. Don't leave it to chance. Deal with the goal difference, get the goals, and then move from there. But Canada looking good in their game. But another question we can ask for those of you who are here: what has impressed you? What has surprised you so far in this competition? It's felt weird for me where I was used to. It felt like I had watched an entire competition before Canada played. That threw me off completely. I'm so used to competitions starting early, but then afterwards it's kind of flowing through. So not too disappointed. Happy for the opportunities that we got. You'd like them to continue on. I'd say for Canada, rotation, keeping everyone fresh. No cards, which is great. No real fouls, which is also great. So for them, good run on them. But that is one of the more. That's what I've liked. I like them looking good. But I think we expected them to win big, and they are certainly doing a good job to do so. And so 9-0 at halftime. We'll kind of see this game through as we see more players get onto the pitch. 5 subs available for each going on, and we will certainly look happy to see what comes up. And again, as stated as well, you got Martinique playing later today, and they are in Group F, and I think that'll be the big push for Group F moving forward. But yeah, excited for what we've been able to see so far, and we shall see. But 9-0, but then also, what do you think of CONCACAF's new youth competition? How their youth qualification format? Do you like it? And again, to go through it simply again, as we are in halftime, starting next year, the prelim round or the qualification round will be in July. Well, it will be August, September for both men and women U17s. Next year, the top 16 teams for each side, men and women, are automatically put in, and then it goes group winners and second runners up for the men qualify for the U17 World Cup, and on the women's side, group winners of the 16, 4 groups each, 4 teams each, they qualify automatically. So that happens in February, March, and then come August, September, the qualification happens. Top 8 teams get the bye to the next round. The only thing I would change about how it reads would be, I think if you qualify, as long as you qualify for the World Cup, I think that should be your bye. I like the idea of, hey, reward winning. So if this was happening this year, As much as it would be, some would say, be useless or a waste of time for some teams, especially like a Canada, for instance. If it was this year, I'd say give Jamaica the bye. They get to get ready. They're on a back. We don't have that issue this year. But if it happened, if this year was next year, for instance, I would say give the group winners who go on to the World Cup, give them the bye to go on, and they have a year to prepare. And then the next teams, they can prepare and use that time. Reward winning is what I'm getting at. Reward them being able to do that. And I think that would be fair and that would make the competition a little bit more lively. There's more at stake that way. I think that would certainly help in many ways what could work and what could just add to the competition overall. So we're getting ready for the second half as Canada starts to build up. Couple substitutions made, shipped over, bad cross, and goal kick coming for Canada. Sorry, goal kick coming for the U.S. Virgin Islands. Timothy Fortier on for Canada for Liam McKenzie. I'm sure I've missed one more substitution. But there we sit. And we'll chop it up and we'll throw it in. Yes, we'll enjoy it regardless. And the ball touching the ref. So Canada building up, sending the ball down the wing, looking for the cross put in, and missed. Missed opportunity there for Canada, but we move and we roll. But for Canada, I think Babishkov starting off, I think he's been a nice show. Now again, it's U.S. Virgin Islands, but we'll see what they're able to do when they play better teams. But I think it's a great debut for him. But the score is 9-0 for Canada. Very much well covered. And with US Virgin Islands pushing a little bit further up the pitch to see what they can do. But hey, they're showing well. They got pride. No one's going to want to just roll over here. But we have Sadek coming off. Sadek and McKenzie coming off for Timothy Fautier and Bosom Berry. Those are the subs for Canada. Just letting you know as we move on. So yes, we're kind of chilling through watching this, but also talking a little bit. If you want to leave your thoughts as you jump in, jump out on what is going on with CONCACAF's new youth qualification structure. And again, to remind you what it looks like, as it's 9-0 for Canada. Starting next year, the qualification round will happen the previous year, 6 months earlier, September slash August. Teams ranked 9 through 41 will compete, and the group winners will join the top 8 teams on the men's and the women's sides. Here we go, ball through for Canada. Boston Berry building. Ball chipped in the middle. There's just a lot of congestion. But Bishkov with a nice turn, but just can't finish. But I mean, a nice touch turn. But Bishkov, to me, I think, has impressed just with his. I mean, show me a youth tournament where Canada doesn't have a good nine. They always have a good nines. But in this competition, seems like versus U17s, seems like the finishing is a little bit. They're not granted levels and such. But Babishkov, for me, I think, has shown very well for me for Canada in this first half. As we're into the second, into the 50th minute, 51st, it is still 9-0. Canada have yet to break the goals, the second half goal drought as they work the ball around. As a nice ball through the middle, slipped over Babishkov, using some physicality, almost pokes it through, but it stopped there as US Virgin Islands begins to build out from the back. Babishkov with a near chance again, but that one goes off. He's certainly everywhere, Babishkov. Sholjimo lays it off, ball crossed over, and just not finished. But still a second half goal drought going on here for the Baby Rouge. Gimo putting it out, back in the middle. Faultier lays it off. Gimo crosses. But Babishkov's just unable to keep it down. But hey, he's attacking the ball well. That's what you want from your nine. That's a case where a play maybe, yeah, he tried to corral it versus finishing it, and that's okay. But again, I think for the first game, coming from the nine stripes slash Inter Toronto slash York, I think he's definitely shown well. And yes, we get to Canada talking about where they are. I think there's lots of reform that could happen with Canada. I think just recruitment, overall scouting. There's a lot that can change. Not looking for necessarily traits, but more so aptitudes, understanding. Here comes the cross, and it's in. And the goal drought. Owen Graham Roche with the first triple of the day. We have hit double digits. Mauro Biello is just loving life here. But Canada firmly in control. If that wasn't clear, 10-0 is the score. But they're just looking better at attacking and just not giving US Virgin Islands any time to breathe. And a competition where Nicaragua will be feisty, Martinique are showing well early, the goal difference will matter in one game. As we have a sub coming from US Virgin Islands. Here we go. Canada coming again. But a little bit too heavy on the touch. Nelson, it's this is youth levels, but hey, this is what happens sometimes. It is always a ridiculous score, but I think teams are. I think it was worse in previous years. I will say that. I think it was worse in previous years. So I'm happy. Yes, hey, Canada gets to run it up like this, but right now, yeah, I do agree. It is a high number, but that works and that moves. We got Shola on the side, left over, shot blocked, tripped over, and clear. Qualifiers, this is U20s, but I pay because we got Olympics for this. We got Olympics for this. Well, the first round we get through this. But no, there's a lot going through. But again, as we watch this, I am open in ears for any conversations. Agreed. I don't disagree with you there. It's not a great teaching point, but 56 minutes and two more subs for Canada. Joel Lishimo and Graham Roche come off for Lucas Lima coming onto the pitch for Canada, and then Aiden Evans coming on. And a trip over we go. But Canada building back. And a turn. And nice. Oof. But nothing there. But Nelson, since you're there, I mean, let's have all the conversations here. We're coming to the end of February. For the most part, we know, yes, on 10 nil. 10 nil. It's a purple participation, and CONCACAF's trying to change their format for what it looks. So, I mean, since you're here, I wonder, yeah, instead of going to this format, they've decided to change this format from the prelim there to pre-qualify. Well, they've just changed the scheduling of it, so by the time they get to the final round next year, it's top 16. Um, each each run to see kind of how teams look. Agreed, agreed. But Nelson, since you are here, I'm curious to hear what you think about like the idea of. I know youth tournaments aren't they're snapshots. They're not an indicator always. They're always snapshots. But FIFA expanding their U17s from 24 to 48 on the men's side. Does that help or does that hurt? I am curious to see what you think. But there's probably like six more goals in this game. 60th minute. 60th minute. Canada building back up. But Canada in firm control here, 10 0. We're watching this game, but then for those of you in CONCACAF, as we'll continue to go on, we are talking about how CONCACAF has changed their schedule for. It's the same one. It's the same one that it always is. But since you must. But yeah, it looks like Nelson will hop on this one and we'll talk about all things, everything. But as you can see, 10-0 here for Canada. We have a deepish free kick for the U.S. Virgin Islands. U20s. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Yo,
What's up? What's up, Nelly?
listen, how many times do I have to tell you to? Oh, whoa, I hear. Oh, one second.
You have a bit of an echo, but you're good.
Yeah. No, it's because it's playing. I still
Oh,
have the.
you're hearing yourself talk like, whoa.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a second.
No,
um,
I don't disagree with your point, but I'll explain your
yeah,
point here so that I don't just because I can't have a conversation with you assuming that we've had it and have people have to
of
just
course.
hop in
Yeah,
halfway.
yeah.
But
Mhm.
explain your point on youth tournaments.
Well, it goes down. It basically boils down to this: youth tournaments are useless. Rarely do players who play in youth tournaments actually cross over to being very good. Um, like in the men, I usually call like the men's game or the women's game, right? At least we have more data on the men's game. The women's could be vastly different just because any
Yeah.
youth setup just gives a country a larger edge. But in the men's game, there's a lot of good players who've we can use like England for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the times you'll just find like one or two good players from the youth team continue to being good players in the men's team.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them now in this coming World Cup, where they have a really strong possibility of they're one of the stronger teams this coming World Cup, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Majority of them will make it. Foden isn't making it. He was an elite player in the youth team. Rashford might not make it. We're not sure. Jadon
Yeah.
Sancho was good in the U21s, U20s. Like
Mm-hmm.
so many of these players were elite in the U20s. They just don't. It's easier for you to dribble past someone who's 5'8" when when he's in the under 17s, and then you play in the men's game and you're playing against giants.
Okay. Yeah. I think
And
that it's a
go
yeah.
on.
Go keep
Mm-hmm.
going. I would say I think that
Uh-huh.
you like we've had this conversation
Yeah,
many a
we've
time.
spoken about. Yeah.
And I would say that the one difference I would say is I think if you look at players, I think the U17s is a
Mm.
lot better of an indicator than say the U20s. I think players who stand out the U17 levels, those are the names. Like you mentioned Foden, you mentioned Rashford. I mean, you can
Mm-hmm.
even go to like I think you see more players coming from U17 teams who are
Yeah.
your weekend regulars in tier 1 leagues than say U20s,
Okay.
right? And I think and not to say, yeah, because I remember the first time we had this conversation, I said great players. You're like, what do you mean by great players? I'm like, okay, great was a little bit of an overstatement. But I think the
Mm-hmm.
U17s is a much better run. I think U20s, depending on what the age, if you have a bunch of 19 and 20-year-olds on your U20 team,
Mm-hmm.
not to say that those players are very much capped, but
Yeah.
the growth potential for them isn't quite as large as, say, a U17 player who's looking really good and is a lot better technically built.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I think there's a degree, there's validity in terms of the usefulness of looking at U20 tournaments. I think it also comes down to your ability to identify the proper talent versus specific traits,
Mm-hmm.
right? Versus saying like look for the tall 6 foot, look for the tall 19-year-old who can run versus the technical player who might just be 5'8". Like Canada has a 5'8" winger right now on their U20 team who was on a U17. By
Mm-hmm.
size, some may say like, okay, is he big enough to be a winger? But technically, no, he's sound. He's the type of player who the size won't affect him as he continues to develop. It'll just be he just has to be that much better on the technical ability. But
Mm-hmm.
on an overall pace, I agree with you on your points you make more so on the U20 level than say the U17s because like I said, if you look at U17 World Cups, not even their best players, look at just rosters, you will find more players on U17 rosters who are consistently Sunday features and fixtures than say you what's it called?
Let
The
me let me
U20
give
play.
you let me give you like an example.
Yeah.
Nigeria, because we have to use, let's use players
Yeah.
that we were well aware of. So
Yes.
for Nigeria,
Mhm.
in 2015, the U20, I'll use the U20 because you're watching a U20 game. You have Nacho,
Yep.
Taiwo Awani,
Yep.
Moses Simon, I think, and Wilfred Ndidi. Okay. So
Mhm.
I would argue those four are probably their biggest names.
Mhm.
They all play in Europe. And outside of Ndidi, Nacho had like a really short spell where he
Mhm.
was decent. Awani doesn't even come off. He's on the bench at Nottingham Forest. For
Mhm.
the Nigeria's men team, the Super Eagles, you have Osman in front of him. You'll have Victor Boniface in front of him. For Moses Simon, you have Iwobi in front of him. You'll have Chukwueze in front of him. Bro, it doesn't translate. In By the way, historically, it never has. Like I know you love this stuff. I'm here, by the way, to just embarrass Akwasi. That's all. So just so you guys
I
know.
love you too. I love you
No,
too.
it's
Yeah.
true
Yeah.
though. But no, I'm just being honest. Like, and this is because I used to watch the U17s and U20s. You know this. I
Oh yeah.
used to watch U17s, U20s. I went like back to back to back to back years where the guy was touted as being Akwasi. We've spoken about this. People rated John Obi Mikel over
More
Messi.
than Messi. Yeah. But that's traits. That's not
No, he
actual
was.
talent.
I watched that freaking tournament. He was excellent. But you know what he also was? He was 6'1", while
Yeah, but
everybody
that's
else
what I mean.
is 5'6".
But that's what I mean by traits.
Okay.
I mean that's what I meant by traits, not necessarily the ability. But if you again looked at that proper, who was the better player, right? The player who had 11. But like I don't disagree with you. But even if you use like the U50, the 2025, the 2015, sorry, even if you
Mm-hmm.
use 2015 as your indicator, right?
Mm-hmm.
2015 Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
right? They win the World Cup 2015. Who's the feature on that side?
No one.
Victor
No one.
Osimhen.
Wait, 2015 U17s, you mean?
Yeah,
Or you do mean U20s?
U17s, U 2015.
U17s 2015. I was talking about the
Yes,
U20s
yeah,
2015.
and
U17s, yeah, fair enough.
yeah,
Fair
but
enough.
but
You have
that's my
Osman.
point. Like, and that's my
Okay.
point where,
Who did they
but the
beat?
U20s
No, 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 no. Who did they beat?
they beat Mali.
In the World Cup? Or do you mean in African Cup of Nations?
No, for the World Cup. I'll throw it up for you just so you see it because no one needs to see 11-0. Okay, this was their route. Australia, cool. Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
cool. Mexico, cool.
So can you
Mali
show
in the
me
final.
that Brazilian squad?
Sure. Let me get the squad. Where are the squads? Yeah, let me get that for you.
Because I can pull it up. You said Brazil under 17s. Sec. U17.
Okay, so this is the Brazil squad. So you got So from
So,
Militao,
where is it? Where's Militao? Adam
Eder
Militao.
Mil-
Yep.
yeah,
They have Guilherme, who
yep.
failed at West Ham, I think.
Mhm.
They have Evander,
Vanders,
Luis Enrique. I don't know if that's the same Luis Enrique that I know. Zamarcos is actually a decent player, but
yeah,
okay, you see, out of that U17 squad that you just showed me,
yeah.
the only standout player is Eder Militao,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's the only one. He plays at Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Excellent centre back. No, there's no denying it. He's actually a really good player.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only one from that squad that has made it to the first team, to Brazil's current first team that's going to show up in the World Cup. He's the only one on that list.
Mm-hmm.
Show me Nigeria's under 17s, please.
Sure.
Let's play this game.
Let's play this game.
So look at this team. Chukwueze definitely shows up.
Yep.
He's going to be in the squad.
Yep.
If did Nigeria qualify? I don't think
no,
so. Let's assume they do. Let's assume they do. We're playing.
They don't.
I'm saying an assumption.
They don't. But no, I'm here to kill dreams. They don't.
No, but let's assume that they're in. Let's assume they're in the World Cup.
Yeah, let's assume that they may. Okay.
So on this team, you have Victor Osimhen for sure, Chukwueze for sure.
Yeah.
And that's probably it. I'm looking at everybody else. Anyone that I might be... No. Yeah. It's just those two. And that's in 2017. So how old is...
2015.
2015. So all these guys at 10 to 11 years older. Yeah. So almost all of them should be in the first team.
But you're never going to have
That's my point. That's my point. Kwasi, that's been my point this whole time, buddy. My point is it's honestly a participation trophy to showcase that you care about youth tournaments, when realistically, majority of the best players, if you have, like for instance, Canada, we have Davis, who was always good even when he was like 16, right?
Yeah.
There's no way we're playing him in the U17. There's no way.
I would, but even a player like, even if you argue that, right, the two best Canadian players they never made a youth tournament, right? It's never a full indicator if you do make it. And again, that's why the caveat on a lot of things.
It is an indicator. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying the youth tournaments should be an indicator. You can show up in the U17s, but maybe you don't show up in the U20s. You know what I mean? Like I need to see like actual progression so that it makes sense that you're going from U17, U20 to like the main team. But honestly, all of these things, I would argue the Olympics is more important than U17s and U20s. Because when you play in the Olympics, you are going to face like first team players of like people who make the Brazil squad, people who make the Ghana squad, people who make the actual squads in that team. And outside of these things. No, go on.
I said I would argue that I would argue making the Olympics based off of that point in a player's career. If you told me to rank the importance, like go U17, U20, and then the Olympics, which is basically a glorified U23, I'd still say U17 is the more important one because I feel that if you, for lack of better words, if you pop off at that point, there's more. I feel that there's more space. There's more of a runway for development, for lack of better words, right? If you identify a player at 17 versus you identify, yes, you have late bloomers and the likes,
Yeah.
I
So
feel
where's
that
Iwobi? So where's Iwobi then? Why wasn't he in the U17 squad then?
didn't it will be play England, UK,
England?
England? Yeah.
When
But
did he
let's
switch? I thought he always like check the England squad. I don't think he was on there.
Ugbo
Yeah,
was there,
he
Trent
wasn't.
Alexander-Arnold. Well, let me look him up. I feel
He
like
was. Oh no, he was. He was in the U17 in 2013 though. He was in
yeah, the year
2013.
before, the year prior, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But my point is, let me clarify what my point is again.
Hmm.
Like the problem I have with this. So this is actually a good like picture. Yeah, you have
Yeah.
Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's a star.
Hmm.
You have could you scroll? Is that the whole list? I don't think so. Oh, it is the whole
For
list.
for them, that's the whole
So
list.
genuinely, one player,
Yeah.
genuinely one player makes it to the first team. I actually thought there'd be more than one. That's why I'm shocked. I'm like, I expected two. I expect at least two. There's only one, bro. And by the way, all these guys you're seeing here, were considered elite at that time.
Yeah.
The problem is growth in from youth to the main squad. It's not linear. And there's some assumption that if you're in the youth team, you're going to be a good player. When there's never been any proof that there's never been any showing that it's linear at all.
And that's something where we agree on this. Growth, player development is never going to be linear. So, in a way, to basically, go back on everything I just said, but kind of stick with it. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm a firm person who's like, you're just because they're popping off now doesn't mean that they're going to continue on their trajectory. There's going to be ebbs and flows within everything that they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. So a player's development isn't going to just because they pop off and look great at the U17 World Cup doesn't mean that they're going to be great players. Just like if a player looks amazing at the Olympics doesn't mean they're going to be great players either. I think where you are matters. I think the opportunities you have matter. All those things, putting yourself in those positions where you can then continue to grow, move from there. I think that all does matter. And there I agree with you. However, if I'm gonna make that assumption and say, okay, if I'm gonna live in a world where I say a FIFA at a youth tournament where they look good tells me where they are going to be good,
yeah,
I will take more stock in the U17s,
yeah,
than I will in any other tournament, just because for me, even if we go to like other years, I feel like if we go back,
there's going to be like unique years. There are going to be years where, like the John Obi Mikel Messi under 17s was insane. Like that, you get one world class player and another extremely good player in John Obi Mikel. There's nothing wrong with that. You will have those. You just showed. I like Ezekiel Palacios. I think is a Bayer Leverkusen. He's actually a really good player. But he's not like generational. He doesn't, whether or not he plays for Argentina, doesn't switch. They've got so many good midfielders in that team. He's not like a starter. Even we're talking about Trent Alexander-Arnold. He might not make it to the English squad. He might not. If Reece James doesn't get any injuries, there's a possibility he doesn't go. Mm-hmm. He might choose Lewis Smiley or Livramento or something. But my point has always been, and you know this, for those who don't know, we talk about this all the time. I have issue with Akwasi's love for U20s and U17s. I think what happens is you see a kid with what many would consider mercurial talent, that being insane amounts of skill, insane amounts of like technical ability or whatever, and everyone goes, "This guy's going to be a star." Yeah. Look at this; it's 13-0. What a joke!
Yeah, good times. Good times. No, but I thought about another. But go on.
But the problem I have is do you know what it takes to be like? We talk about this about other sports, NBA, whatever.
Yeah.
It's not the talent that gets you there. It's a hard work. It's a mentality that gets you
Agreed.
there. So a lot of these youth players, they're selected primarily off of skill, nothing else.
True.
They're not looking at their mentality. They're not looking at anything else that makes them a good professional. By the way, there are probably a lot of players on that list, even in the U20 teams for Canada, Virgin Islands, Jamaica, whatever, that are excellent. They have insane technical ability. But you know what happens? They'll never make it. Never will. Because they lack the mentality.
What do you define as making it? Right? That's where I'll say. Then we get into an argument of semantics, and then.
So no, I'll say the argument. If you're making the U20s for your country, you should be a guaranteed starter for your men's team in, let's say U20, let's say U17s. I give you 7 years. In 7 years, you should be a starter. If not, why are we playing you?
So here's where I'll disagree with you on that. I'll disagree with you on that on this point. I think if you make your U17 team and you are that level of good, you're not making the U20 team because they're not, your club's not.
No, I said main team. I said main squad, not under 20s. I don't care about U20s. You know that. The primary role for U20s or U17s should be to prepare a player for the main stage.
Fair.
Otherwise, again, what I've been saying is this is a participation trophy. It bears no fucking bearing. Apologies for the swearing. It bears no bearing. There literally is. Yeah, there is literally no reason to have a tournament for kids who do nothing, who don't do anything afterwards. Like, look at what we're discussing. Osman did amazing. He won the U17s, has had an excellent career. In my opinion, top 2 strikers in the world right now. Yeah?
Yeah.
That works. That's perfect. How about the other? Remember, the squad is 25, yes? Or 22, something like that, no?
20 to 21, yeah.
Yeah, let's say 20. Let's even say 20. Let me even help you. That means there's 19 bums on that seat who went. No, just a fact, bro. Like, no, because, okay, bring back again that Nigeria squad.
Yeah, yo, Nelson strongly taking away for him to get himself sorted here. As we go there. But yes, we always talk about youth and the value of it, but I think it has more. I think, though, his point about you want players to start to push through, especially when they're making these types of teams, that I don't disagree with. I think, again, as I said, I put more value, I put more emphasis on, say, them looking good from a U17 standpoint than a U20. It looks like he's got his stuff sorted here. So let's throw him back in here.
Can you hear me?
You sorted? Yeah,
dude.
I think you were too passionate that you were so passionate.
I hit my fucking mic, bro.
I know you. I know that's what you did. I know that's what you did.
Okay, no. Bring up that squad again. Bring up that Nigeria squad.
Okay.
So let's even quantify it even nicer. Yeah. So let's break it down even further. I would even say for professional development, let's assume any of these players. If you won the World Cup, the U17 World Cup, you should at the very least be in the top 5 leagues. You should be in the top 5 leagues.
Okay.
Fair enough. Is that fair to say?
I'm going with what your criteria is, and that's fine.
No, I'm asking you. What is your? Because if you're telling me U17, U20 is good, what exactly is good about it? That you can build a squad that can only dominate when people are under the age of 17. Like
under 5 seconds, establish this, okay? Under 5 seconds.
No, I'm just wondering because if that's the case, if teams remember, if countries were taking this very seriously, you would see selection dilemmas. Like think about it for big teams. Think about it for we were discussing Senegal. There's so many Senegalese people, so many Senegalese players that wouldn't even make it to the World Cup, and they're elite. They're exceptional. Yeah, I guarantee for the U17s, they just pick whoever. they're like because we choose 3 academies. Those are the only players we're going to bring up.
Or it gets really like specific. We're like we need to develop our domestic league. So though you have 18 people who live off the rock or the place who want to represent you and have gone through low prioritized and everything, there's always more layers to that, right? So, but to your point,
so let's humor me, okay? These guys won the World Cup at the age of 17. Or under the age of 17, these were the best players. That's what this tournament tells me. So how about you hover over eBay? Hover over eBay. Let's see what team is in right now. Come on. Please. Humor me. Where is he playing? No, not a bear. eBay. The orange one.
Well, the orange one should tell you everything you need to know.
Tobechukwu eBay, number 3. Tobechukwu eBay.
Its page doesn't exist on Wikipedia.
It doesn't exist. Almost like he's not a freaking professional player. Okay. Wait. Let's not even go there. How about the guys who might have a page? Let's look at Kingsley Michael. What's Kingsley Michael from Abuja playing in? Oh, Austria. Okay, cool. Not top 5, but let's keep it moving. Let's go to Funcho Bamboye. Where's he playing? What the hell is that? That must be Turkey. Turkey, probably.
Yeah, Turkish league. Yeah,
Turkish league. Okay, that's what you know. What that's what Osimhen is.
Yes.
So you know what? I'll give you that as a pass. Chukwueze plays for Fulham, so he's a good player. I like Chukwueze. I did say those 2 are elite. Osimhen, let's be honest. Osimhen would be playing in the top leagues. His representatives just don't care about that. They only care about the money. Let's look at Nwakali. Where does Kelechi Nwakali play?
He is League One.
League One. So for those who don't know what League One is, you have the Premier League, which is the top league. Then you have the Championship, which is the second level. Then you have League One. Do you know who else is in League One? Kenyan players. Shout out to Oma and them. Okay, like that's what Odwar and them. What are we talking about, man?
You're living your best life.
Come on. Wait. Let's look at Okonkwo. I think Okonkwo actually plays for a good team. Or Origi. It's number 20.
He is. Yes, he's on loan.
He's in Serie B.
He's at Serie B, but he's at Bologna.
Serie B, yeah. No, he was at Bologna, failed.
He's on loan.
They shipped him off to Pescara, okay? That's what I'm talking about, Akwasi, okay? Remember, these are the guys who won the World Cup. We're not talking about bums. They won it. They were the best team in the world. They have
for that age
2 players. Yeah. They have 2 good players and maybe 1 guy. You're mute.
But you're not going to get 20 in every round.
If you should have at least 5. You should have 5. You should have just 5. I'm asking for too much. 5 out of 20. Is that crazy?
For a birth year? For me.
5. You tell me you couldn't get 5?
I would argue that they've had probably from that team.
Yes.
Probably 3. Right.
They have 3. I think Osimhen, Chukwueze for sure. Yeah. Those are actually excellent players. Okay, that's it. Look at Barnsley. What number is Barnsley in League One? Please tell me.
Well, I'm transfer marketing him, but thank you still.
Remember, he's turning 28.
Yeah.
So this is the highest level he's going to play in. By the way, like he's a League One player. He might get lucky if he plays in the Championship.
Fair is the fair. Because he was at Chavez before, so yeah.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Like, listen, from a personal perspective, Nwakali has done well for himself. He's probably making decent money. That's good. That's good. But I'm talking about it from a federation perspective. That's my point. That's my point, Akwasi. All of these guys would still have been scouted by those teams, regardless of the U20. Osimhen would still have been a good player, regardless of the U17s. Chukwueze, same thing. So the tournament is my issue. My issue is the tournament, bruv. Like, that's it. I don't care about your professional level. That's for
matters
you.
more than what you do at the
Yeah.
But that and again, that point, we agree on like 80% of this. The 120% we don't agree on is just how much importance we put onto it.
Exactly. That's the only difference. That's we agree on everything else but that. But go on,
because realistically, that's where I'm like, if a player looks good at the U17 level, odds are if he continues on how most of them have, you're not playing in U20 because they're saying we're not going to release you because you're more valuable to us here than you are.
But my point is, if you were elite in the U17 or U20, either one, I don't care. It could be either one of those competitions. If you're good for the U17 or the U20, barring injuries, because injuries are a thing. People just get injured. People have multiple problems. That could happen. Yes. But barring injury, you should be in the first team for the main squad. Otherwise, it's a waste of a competition. You know why I say the Olympics is better? You at least get something. You get a freaking medal. You at least say you played against some of the best players in the world. We've had Olympics with Messi in them. We've had Olympics with Neymar in them. We've had Olympics with Dani Alves. Like, multiple times, the Olympics has really good players playing for them. So, in my opinion, I would much rather win the Olympics than win the U17, U20 World Cup. And how much do they win? Do they win money? How much money do they win? No, for the U20s. No, U20, U17s.
Okay. U20 prize.
It's something like 2 million. I can shut up. It's a valid amount. Split between 50 people.
Yeah, really just the federation.
And federations. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And the federation.
Okay, so last year's. Okay, so winners, it's $1 million for the U20s, and then smaller amounts from that. So U20s, $1 million for the Fed, basically.
And let's assume flight plus accommodation is probably what, like for 20 people, 300K, 400K probably.
20 people plus plus a little bit of per diem for
exactly
family traveling.
The people for 500K. So you're basically you have to win it. like the only way you break even.
You're choosing which auntie's coming.
Takes it seriously.
Boy, you better. That's the winger who's going off. It's the one winger who's going off. It's like, I brought 7 people. that boy's playing like his life depends on it.
He's like, oh crap. They tell you if you don't make it, we're garnishing your wages. You're like, nah. We're getting the final.
I'm taking this penalty right now. Oh man, but yeah, I love how we'll fight over the most minuscule 20% of things.
Of course,
just like what you be, how you be. By the way, for the Canadians who are here, it finished 14. So congratulations.
Finished what, 14?
Yeah, 14.
That's nuts. That's so stupid.
But no, okay. So, and here's what I have to say: Nelson is new to CONCACAF. Nelson's not familiar with how stupid the scores get.
No. But I'm African. I know. I've seen bad scores for U17s before. You think I haven't seen? You think I haven't seen 13 nils before?
Stay the country that picks up 17.
I've seen Burundi take fucking 13. I've seen Am I not lying? I've seen Lesotho put like get 10
Oh,
from South Africa. Come on,
respect
like
is
I've
something
seen
that you
it.
guys picked up.
Yeah,
Yes.
but like it happens in Africa too. That's the reason why I'm not even gonna. I'm not lying. U17s, U20s, unless your country's doing well that year, do people pay attention? No one does.
Here's the in Canada. This is the talking points. Team beats it. We beat a team 14-0. Man, I don't know what we're doing here. This isn't helping our development. Next time we beat a team 6-0. Okay, cool. We finally face a team that's gonna challenge us a bit. Oh man, we got it done. The boys look good. We go to another round. Now we play like a Mexico or the US. It ends 2-3-0 for the other side. Man, we're so behind in development. There's not much we can do.
Yeah, but
We,
you're
we
not
have.
developed. But I think people are still correct.
Oh,
You
agree.
can't show me. Listen, a development only happens on a club level or an academy level.
I agree.
U17s, U20s, it doesn't give you anything.
And I think that's where I think that's where as Canadians we struggle. Like you can listen. There's more, especially when you look at like the big academies,
Yeah,
like the big names, like the MLS ones, right?
the
There's
Toronto
more.
FC.
Toronto FC is the amount of there should be. Agreed, Richard. They look good, but the amount of players who could have gone to Toronto FC who didn't go to Toronto FC because Toronto FC couldn't properly identify
Mm,
is you can have a full team. Like for every Alfonso Davies that the Whitecaps discover, there's, I mean, Jonathan David went his own route. He didn't go through any academy, any big academy, right?
mm,
There's other players. There's players who are playing for Toronto FC now who couldn't make Toronto FC because they weren't good enough, according to Toronto FC. Our
yeah,
talent identification is very much still on instead of like the football IQ, it's more traits that they're looking
but
at.
is it the problem? No, but I don't think it's traits because when you look at Davis, is just a freak. Let's be honest. He's genuinely just a freak. Like
Mm-hmm.
people don't have the dribbling ability and the pace that Alfonso Davis has. Like
Mm-hmm.
the guy's insane. But like a Jonathan David, you can tell he has skill, but it's things that are worked on. Like his
Yes.
ability is reading the game. That's game intelligence. One and two, it's repetitions. It's
Yeah.
understanding where the cross goes, where things land.
Mm-hmm.
So that again is probably a reason why. Because if you play with different types of wingers, different types of strikers, he's played in a two-striker system. He's played a lone striker. He's played in different, probably like as a false nine, so on and so forth. You need that. You need that in your development. But if you're playing in a development system where it's akin to Barcelona style, where you're expecting the ball to always come to you in a very specific way, because that's what the Spaniards do, right? Like
Yes.
all Spaniards, it's you're either coming from three schools. You have the Basque school, you have the Barcelona type school, and then you have the Real Madrid school. And I don't know if you know this, but apparently, I can't remember what Real Madrid's academy is, but something like 60% of players who play in La Liga come from Real Madrid. So all those players all know how to play the system,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the other guys who are coming in from other academies, they're the elites. They're the best of the best from those academies. So it doesn't take them long to understand whichever system you're trying to employ.
Yeah.
Netherlands, it's Ajax, PSV, maybe Willems or whatever. Germany, Bayern Munich, England, so on and so forth. The only reason with Canada is we honestly should be getting a lot more academy players from our metropolitan cities. So Montreal,
And
Toronto, and Vancouver should be the number ones. You should only have one club that just siphons through all these elite talents.
they should, but then you'd need those clubs would have to be able to identify, and that's where the struggle is, right? There's like TFC for MLS. I look at them comparable to the talent that could be good there for its level, but then also the talent that it has access to. They're like a Chelsea, where the talent that passes through. There's a good list of there's probably a solid MLS team that have
Mhm.
left TFC
Yeah.
where they just never got the proper run at the club, right?
Mhm.
And then on top of that, there's a reserve team of players who were told that basically like, you don't have the rates, and these are players who there's players who've played for Serbia there. There's players who've youth with other teams, but like TFC's, they've gotten better, but they're
Yeah.
still not at a level where, for the talent that they have access to, they don't the amount of homegrown talent that they put onto the pitch for the MLS slash that they sell, they either botch the sale or they just don't know how to identify it properly. Has it got better? Yes, but I think that's the thing that holds them back and their ability to find those players and to find that talent in Canada, because there is talent there, but if those three spots aren't able to always identify it and put it onto the pitch, then what are you doing?
But when you say they're not able to identify, do you mean these are players that are good enough, but don't they? Sorry, let me rephrase. So you have a roster of players that you currently have, which Toronto FC has,
Yes.
but for an academy player, what they're looking for is an academy player who actually slots into the first team, or at the very least is good enough to play for another MLS side. So they see that as like a transfer situation.
But it's never a
But it
transfer.
just mean
It's never
so
like a proper transfer situation. It's a, hey, they've made the roster, but they'll sit there. There's nothing there, and then they're able to leave, or they're able to transfer, they're able to leave. Contract runs out, they sign on or off of a free, and the next thing I was like, oh look, they're a solid MLS player.
yeah,
Or oh, look,
but that still means the academy is good though, because it means that the academy did identify the player, they did develop the player. Yes, they might not have made it to the first team because of managers or whatever, but
management, but yeah,
yeah, the bad thing would be a player tries to go to TFC, they reject him because they think him or her, and they think they're not good enough, and then they go to another team, say in the US.
yeah.
Is that Buffalo team? I don't think so. But
No,
let's assume they go to I'm just going to say Miami or LA or whatever, and they actually make it to that team. Then that would showcase a fundamental failure.
But that happened to, so there's a story and he talks about it. They're starting right back, Alistair Johnson, who's at Celtic and starts for them, right? His entire team, I forget which podcast it is on, but he talks about how basically his entire team got invited to join the academy, but him, because he wasn't tall enough to be that right back.
But that's
He
the thing,
left,
though. That's
yeah,
an issue
and
in
that's an
world
issue.
football.
That's an
Yeah.
issue with world football in terms of finding traits. He's then goes, plays at the CF Montreal team after a year at another MLS club. Then he transferred over to Celtic, and he's been there ever since. Right, but that's a player that TFC they've identified, but they said this is the issue. No, right?
But
There's
that's a common thing because
yeah,
like you see that with it's an issue that a lot of Asian players encountered historically is you're too small. You see it even with like Spanish players. For years, Spanish players were always seen as too small. And only the big players were the ones considered. Heck, Messi, you're ignoring Messi was actually seen as a failure from Barcelona's part.
Yeah,
Until he gained a lot of muscle. He was injury prone. Because that's the thing. That's the thing that you also have to account for. Like Toronto FC, if they sign, let's say they take. You said his name was what? Alistair Jones.
Alistair Johnson.
Alistair Johnson. Sorry. So they look at Alistair and they go, yeah, you might have the technical level, but let's play. Let's put you in the development squad and let's see how you do. If he gets a bad injury, that's on them. That's their specialists. That's a cost that they have to incur. Those are things that they're trying to avoid. So one or two players missing happens. Multiple, you can go down so many clubs that have ignored really good players who are smaller.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
fair.
how I see it.
No, and it's not. There's nothing wrong with seeing it that way. I just I know there's talent because I see talented players who leave, and it's like okay, and then using the youth team example, it's like okay, why you're playing this country. We had one.
Wait, I've got a question though. How did he get? How did Johnson get to Celtic? He must have gone to an academy somewhere.
No, I'll throw up his what's it called? His transfer market and show you.
Yeah, because there's no way Celtic is like Celtic doesn't have scouts in Canada.
Well, Celtic has scouts. Celtic basically is a lot of clubs. Well, he sold after the World Cup 22, right?
So he made
After
it to the World Cup squad.
yeah, he made the World Cup squad. Yes,
What team was he playing for?
he was for the Montreal MLS team.
So he didn't join TFC, but was accepted by Montreal.
He was in Nashville first, and then he went to Montreal. But yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Oh, I'm not. It's not on the screen. My bad. I was like,
That's all right.
why aren't you seeing the things that I'm seeing? Because I'm not showing you the things. Clearly. But yeah, so so started in 2020. That's where he starts there. Then goes to Montreal in 2 years later. Plays there for a year or two, and then Celtic. And at one point was a 10 value, but currently injured, so currently out of form, living his life. Right?
Hey, shout out to him.
Yeah.
So
Man.
technically, so he failed at TFC, goes to Nashville, works out there. They like him, put him on the squad. He moves to Montreal afterwards, then goes to Celtic.
Yep.
Not bad.
Yeah.
But that's what that to me isn't an identification problem. Like if they clearly had a reason why they. How tall is he? How big is he's? That says 180. That's
he's
5'11.
Yeah.
5'10. 5'10. 5'10.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's not short at all. How short was he then when he was he must have been like a really small guy or something.
Must have been. Must have been pushing it, but yeah. And then in between, yeah, because he played a bunch of you've not gone to we'll have to go to a Roma or a St. Catherine's Roma game at some point. Not a Roma.
The hell is a St. Catherine's Roma? That's our local team.
That's our local League One team.
Oh hell no!
We're going.
Why am I going to St. Catherine's Roma when I can just drive up to TFC? It's not that far. It's like
actually we should take in a CPL game at some point this year.
Yeah, like it's not far. It's only I've done it. It's only one. You drive to Burlington, get off.
Yeah, then take
then take the go. Yeah.
See Chris Smith, Rich Green. Yeah, they're looking good. I mean, it's one game that they've played, so I think they play Martinique. The next game, Martinique looked good. They beat U.S. Virgin Islands 7-0. So I think that'll be a fun game. I think that's game for the group, and then they'll go from there. But yeah, they look good, Rich. But thanks for chopping in there. But yeah, I think there's a full conversation with just the system and how it's set up in Canada, but that's another conversation for another day, another time. But thanks for having me.
About thanks, bro.
No problem.
All right, see ya.
Yeah, see you, man. That was best friend Nelson. He's cool. He's a cool guy. But yeah, so to recap everything, for those of you who've been or who've not been here, Canada wins their game 14-0. Goals by a lot of people. A lot of people. But Bishkov looks good as the 9. He looks good. And so their big game, I think, is the Martinique game, which is their Saturday game. Their second game, Martinique plays later today. But CONCACAF U20s. I'll wrap this up here quickly, but just a recap for everything we talked about. Okay, we were watching this game, but then the big news today, and I'm sure people will cover it tomorrow. CONCACAF has changed its youth tournament format, especially for the U17s. And the key factors are basically starting next year, it's going to be the championship round will be 16 teams, but the qualification will be the same year as the championship round. So next year, the top 16 teams, as ranked by CONCACAF, will be playing out. For the men's side, there'll be groups of fours, and the women's side, four groups of fours. On the men's side, the top two teams move on. And on the women's side, the top four teams move on, and on the men's side, the top two teams, so first and second place of every group, move on to the World Cups respectfully. And that's supposed to happen in February, and then come August, September, that's when the qualification round. So the teams ranked 9 to 41 in CONCACAF will play like they've been playing. Group winners will then meet up, and then the top four teams, or the top eight teams, will then go on there. That's the big news from CONCACAF today. But for Canada, 14-0, based off of goal difference. They lead their group. They're living their best lives. And again, matchups coming up, like we said, are looking very good. But later on today, we do have Curacao. They are playing. Who is Curacao playing? Curacao is playing St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And then coming up a little bit later after that, we have Martinique playing Nicaragua tonight. Those are the two games left for today. One's going on, the other one's going to start in a little bit. But to give you a recap of where we are as we stand after Canada wins their game, knockouts. Let's just run this through before we run off. So Suriname leading their group over El Salvador right now. In Group B, Jamaica leading the group over Puerto Rico. In Group C, Antigua and Barbuda leading their group over Dominican Republic. In Group D, Haiti leading their group by goal difference over St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But then Curacao are playing St. Vincent and the Grenadines shortly, so we'll see how that game goes. Trinidad leading their group with Costa Rica. Costa Rica got off the bat with a 12-0 win today. Martinique leading their group. Canada's score hasn't come in, but currently Canada will be leading that group on a plus 14. And so as long as Martinique doesn't lose to Nicaragua, they should be good. And that's the game. Well, they're playing Aruba today. So they'll play Aruba, and that'll be the game that will be very interesting. So we will go from there. That's where everything sits. But yeah, that's where we are for Canada. We'll have a recap for the Saturday game coming a little bit later, Sunday morning. As always, guys, thanks for being here. And as always, I'm going to stop talking right here.